Hello everyone, I'm Jane Hanlon, the Club Manager at AdviseWise. Welcome to today's Ask Jane. The question today from Chris in Brighton: who will lend on age-restricted sheltered accommodation and on what terms? We get a lot of these at the desk because obviously it's our market, a lot of older people, and I think in the current climate with care homes, people are looking now at other options, and obviously these accommodations which house people tend to be over 55, over 60 in flats. It's a communal room where they can have social coffee mornings and things like that. It's proving very, very popular, but they are very expensive. And we find around the country more and more being built in groups of anything from 20 to up to 100 units per block. The main provider is McCarthy Stone, which usually has one or two in each town. Churchill tends to be slightly more at market, and Phoenix are just some that we can name. That all of them have lovely accommodation, even little bungalows, proving very popular. They're adapted and ready for wheelchair, so there's no further requirements with wet rooms and things like that. So particularly nice to live in your later life. Though the problem is we do have restricted lenders. A number of lenders have actually pulled out of this market. That includes Aviva, Hodge, and more recently More to Life. However, from an advice point of view, they're not the easiest. The advisors should ask key questions. The key questions are the service charge, because obviously you may have a warden on, the ground rent, and those combined, as a general rule, cannot be more than 1.5% of the property value. In a lot of cases, they're more. So that makes life more difficult. They also come with what's called in the industry a sink fund, which is the amount that is withheld on resale. That figure can't be more than 3%. We do see a number of properties where it can be 1% per year. So obviously the longer you live, the more sink fund is withheld when you resell. However, the more popular demands now, the builders have learnt that they have to adapt to meet the modern requirements within the new lending. On top of that, you need to check the age of the property, because that matters. We find that if it's a new build, you obviously comes with a premium like new build houses. Second-hand properties tend to be lower in value. Not quite sure why. Perhaps they're not. It's the usual story. It's not all new and shiny. Length of the lease is also important because we've had changes with all the lenders during the desktop period while they adjust to the new norm, and the property valuation figure. These key questions need to be asked before you go straight headlong into a fact find. The lenders that will consider an age-restricted sheltered accommodation are Canada Life, Just Retirement, Liverpool Victoria, Legal and General, One Family, and Pure Heritage. So you do have options. So we'll just have a little look at the lenders. Canada Life, on their Capital Select, will consider you need to check the service charge and ground rent of no more than up to 1.5. They need to be more than 3 years old because they check the service charge statements and no major works. If you have a warden assisted, they will reduce the loan to value by 5%, and the lease needs to be 175 years minus the age of the youngest. You can find support with these products on AdviseWise sourcing system, so that helps. Then we move on to Just Retirement and also Pure Heritage range. Their criteria is minimum value of 200,000, so we're starting to get into a more expensive range now, and they will only use 2/3 of the property value, and it needs to be over 55. No new build. However, the lease only needs to be over 120 years, so that makes it doable in some cases, not in all. Liverpool Victoria, no new build. Lease is currently based on the ages, but that is now changing. From 1st of July, the minimum lease now has 175 years minus the age of the youngest, and they base their sink fund of no more than 3%. Legal in general, base their flats, most of them are flats, based on 85% of the property value before they start doing any haircuts. For age restricted, the lease needs to be 185 years minus the age of the youngest, and the usual ground rent and service 1.5 and sink 3%. You need a paper application, and you will need to ring in for a KFI. They can't do it online, but they are proving quite popular and one that's sometimes forgotten. One family, they're in the frame, no new build, got to be more than 3 years. The lease is 155 with them, minus the age of the youngest, with a minimum of 75. So again, has its use. Ground rent and service charge and sink fund are the same, in line with the others, 1.5 and 3%. As you can see, they're not the most straightforward, and we do get a lot of calls, at least 1 or 2 a day at the desk. The computers can source so far, but obviously the additional information is required over and above any normal property. Do feel free to call us. We do find a home for them as a general rule, though the new purchase ones are a little more difficult, and you can renegotiate with them. The builders are aware of the parameters of the lifetime mortgage lending, so if you're having a new build and the figures fall slightly outside, you can renegotiate the purchase price to allow for the sink fund and the service charge and ground rent to be adapted slightly. So that's a quick overview of the age restricted properties. As I say, they will become more popular. We will be doing more work, I think, with the lenders in this market due to the change in people's lifestyles, perhaps less wanting to go in care homes, more wanting to go into these units. Because if you think about it, if you've got 30 units and you can employ a nurse to come in and go do the rounds, that's what people are thinking about. And I have access to McCarthy Stone no more than 100 yards from my home. And that's what they look to do. They employ a private nurse to go in, and each pays their portion, and it works out well for them. So I think people will adapt consequently to these changes and this new norm that we're now seeing. So that's a little on that. Please feel free to ring us. We welcome more questions. We will have more of these questions and answers on anything current that you wish. Simply submit to going to advisewise.com, go on the upskill page and enter your question and press the button to submit, or simply give me a call. Thank you for your time. I do hope you enjoyed the presentation. Please feel free to call us, use the website and use our sourcing platform to your heart's content, because it does produce some new features that you can use to help you place and speed the process of your business. Thank you for your time.